Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Afternoon.
How you doing?
I'm not too bad, James. How are you, buddy?
I'm okay, but Manny's not there for some reason. Let me pick Manny up. Hold on a second.
Okie dokie.
I've lost him. It may be because he switched machines.
Machines? What's he doing?
He's on one machine and he switched to another. Oh, that's crazy. Now I'm not seeing Manny on my list of. This has just gone from bad to worse. He's actually, you know what? He's on this call. That's why. He's actually on this call.
Okay.
Here he is. Here's Manny now.
Hello.
Hi. How you doing, Manny?
I'm very good, Mo. How are you?
I'm not too bad, buddy. I'm not too bad. Just like to introduce myself. My name is actually Billy. I'm a Pakistani Muslim from Manchester. And like how I messaged you earlier, Manny, I'd like to discuss some of this grooming aspects and the statistics that have been kind of put out there.
Okay.
Especially the 90% claim that you seem to have made on numerous occasions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Now, just to begin, is there any way for me to kind of share my screen on here, or is this just a straight voice call?
No, you can share screens. There should be a little button with a little screen icon, little arrow inside it. You should be able to find that somewhere. If you're using a phone, I'm not entirely certain, but certainly on a...
No, I'm on my PC.
Yeah, on your PC, just under the pictures of all of
right,
us.
yeah. All right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've got it. Okay. So in respect to this particular statistic, Manny,
Yes.
firstly, I'd just like to begin with in terms to validate any claims or statistics that we would utilize. What kind of burden of evidence? What's the standard of evidence that would be acceptable for all parties?
I think I would just start, mate. I don't think we seem all quite intelligent. We can just validate it as we go on. I'm personally not looking out to back up any agenda. I've stated my figures from my own research, not something that I've picked out from the Daily Mail. So if I need to look at and consider new evidence then that you present, then I'll certainly do so. So don't worry about getting me to commit to see what's validation, because I'm going to be giving you some things that I've researched as well. So I would say just go ahead, and I promise you that I will look at whatever you present in front of me in a fair manner. And this is one of the reasons why it is good to have James on board, because he is moderate when it comes to looking at evidence. And then if either of us are not being fair, then I'm sure he'll correct us.
Yeah, that sounds fine, Manny. Because I mean, the reason why I ask is, it's like you said, we're all kind of adults and we seem to be rational and reasonable people. My only thing would be is obviously if we're going to get kind of, because I've spoken to a few people in respect to this, and some of the source material that they utilize seems to be quite shoddy at best. And then if I were to present, for example, government statistics, then they hit me back with the fact that, well, who believes the government? So, I mean, if the conversation were to go down that particular path, then we're not going to actually come to a satisfactory kind of conclusion. That was my main point of asking that particular question.
No, you like I said, just go ahead, buddy. When questions arise, we'll ask them. You can only answer them from what you see and honestly from where you are. I'm not, like I said, this conversation is not to criticize anybody.
No.
You're questioning. When I say, for example, 90% of the groomers are X, Y, and Z. So please go ahead and present the information and let's have a look at it in a fair and stable manner.
Yeah, as long as we're all flexible, in terms of I'm not going to come across as somebody whose views are so entrenched that if you present me with information, you could possibly present me with information that I could look at and think, well, wow, I've not seen that aspect of it. I need to research that and look into it and maybe change my own views. So moving on from that.
Well, can I just say, Mo, just quickly to interject there. Oh, sorry, Billy. I should call you Billy, shouldn't I?
Yes.
One thing I will say there is that, firstly, I'm as skeptical as hell about everything. So, you know, I'm the one that drives Manny crazy with this, so he knows what I'm like. May well drive you crazy. One thing that you've got is you've got a little bit of a chat window underneath us talking. You can type things in there. So, for example, if you've got links to show us or anything like that, you can type them in there, and they'll be recorded in this chat, which is actually quite useful because we can go back and like click on links and go and research stuff for ourselves if you've got links, that is, you know. And you can post pictures in there and things like that. So,
I mean, I've got some information that's actually stored on my PC, and some of it there are links to outside sources, where you know that you should be able to verify, or whatever I'm saying, you know, be able to back it up.
The other thing you can do is drop documents in there, I believe, as well. So if you've got a text documents or anything like that, you can drop them in there and we can check them through. So that's kind of cool too.
All right, cool. Okay, Manny. So firstly, this 90%. Can I ask where it comes from? And have you done anything in terms to validate that this particular figure?
Yeah, I've created my own report. It's quite a significant report. It's never been released, and I'm not going to release it because it's very deep, and all it's going to do at the end of the day is going to create hatred against Muslims. I believe, but parts of that report is very, I wouldn't say one-sided, but the way it's been created, looking at what happened in the grooming cases, it can't do anything but create hatred. So this report will never get released. But from that report, I can share with you that if we take the 13 major reported grooming cases in the UK, which are Keighley, Telford, Oxford, Banbury, Derby, Bristol, Newcastle, Halifax, Peterborough, Rotherham, Aylesbury, Rochdale, and Huddersfield. The members of them being Muslim, or certainly for Muslim families, are as follows: Keighley 100%, Telford 100%, Oxford 100%, Banbury 50%, Derby 66.6%, Bristol 100%, Newcastle 88.88%, Halifax 100%, Peterborough 70%, Rotherham 88.88%, Aylesbury 85.71%, Rochdale 100%, Huddersfield 90%. So that spanned over 159 convictions. 44 of the 159 were either practicing Muslims or from Muslim families. 15 of the 159 were non-Muslim. I'm assuming they are not Muslim because they don't have a Muslim name. And there are indications in reports, including news reports, that they never were. As a total sum, it's 90.56% are Muslim, which obviously is rounded slightly down to 90%. So my analysis is that 90% of grooming gangs, not to be confused with paedophile rings and paedophile networks, or paedophiles in general, that the grooming gangs are of Muslim origin. And I just want to give you one more bit of information. I didn't know this until I created this report, that different Muslim regions spell the same name with different combination of letters. And if that is an indication, and it's not foolproof, so I'm just going to highlight that. This was just very quick, broad research, that some of those names come from 9 different countries. But having said that, that includes the Sikh guys, 3 of them, 1, 2, 3, for 4 Sikh guys in there. There were Eastern Europeans in there, and English and what have you. So overall, from those grooming cases, grooming gang cases that I've highlighted, they all come from 9 different countries, origins.
Okay, so sorry, Manny, you said how many convictions?
159 from those 13 major grooming cases. Yeah.
And covering what period of time?
I think the earliest one was 2003, I think. I haven't got that written down here. I haven't got the report with me. It's
Okay.
saved away.
Okay.
I think, I mean, jogging my memory, it's early 2000s anyway.
Okay. So if I were to ask you, would you, so, okay, 153. Okay. Now let me begin by saying this. Anything I say today or whenever in respect to a grooming issue is in no way any justification of any criminal activities. For me, even one is more than enough. Yeah. So I'm not here to justify any the way I look at it, these people should have the full force of the law, regardless of what ethnicity they are, what background they are, whatever. So I'm not here to justify anybody. Yeah. My only concern is to kind of validate and put out there that actual figures that what I perceive that have been that are in the public domain. From my research, I don't think they are accurate. Yeah. So moving on from that, Manny, I will ask you this: are you aware of how many sexual grooming offences have occurred from, let's just say, from the 2003 to 2017 in total?
Probably thousands upon thousands, probably more than even what the statistics unravel.
Okay, so this may be a little bit of a contentious issue, because this is the reason why I asked. I mean, what is the burden of, in terms of the evidence that we're going to be utilizing? Because if we're going to go away from the official statistics, then it goes into assumptions, presumptions, and guesswork, and that's not going to get us anywhere.
Yeah, no, but I'm just used to sexual offences.
Sexual grooming.
Yeah, so sexual grooming is a broad term. So me, that includes paedophilia, paedophile networks. No. It also includes grooming gangs, whereas my statistics are solely for grooming gangs.
Okay, so sexual grooming includes type 1, type 2, and online. The official offence code is 88A. Yes?
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay, so that's what we're referring to. So, I mean, would you have any indication? And I'm talking about offences. Now, when statistically, I'm not 100% certain, but I'm pretty sure that when they say offences, they're referring to people who have been charged, not necessarily people who have been convicted, because obviously these are police statistics. Is that something that you're willing to work with, or?
Yeah, I'm just going to clarify one more thing, just one more time, so for my peace of mind, like I regard grooming gang cases, sexual offences, as a entity within itself, and I do not allow it to overlap with any other type of sexual, paedophile, rape type of cases. So the grooming gangs, and the reason why I'm always very confident to pinpoint the origin of the perpetrators being 90% Muslim, because it's an entity within itself. And what a lot of these reports, including police statistics, do, they like to purposely muddy the waters and muddle everything together and not allow the different types of these cases to stand out. So for me, the Muslim grooming gangs is the way they operate, i.e. a closed network, and very much like a prostitution network, is an entity by itself. Yes, there's grooming involved. There's grooming gang in all types of paedophile and underage sex offences. But then again, there's grooming involved in how children are educated in school. So allowing the word grooming to be exploited like that is, for me, is very muddying the waters. But all these children sex crimes is an element of grooming involved. So we need to differentiate. Otherwise, as a community, we're not going to be able to tackle where the real perpetrators are coming from.
I agree, Manny. And like I said, my what I'm not about to be doing is I'm not trying to kind of slip and slide the information. All I'm trying to do is hone in on aspects of agreement. So in terms of when I refer to a particular code, 88A, and that's referred to sexual grooming, what I'm asking you is, are you happy to converse based on that particular offense code? Because if you're saying the police are muddying the waters, are you saying that some of the grooming issues are not being categorized under that specific offense code?
But I'm saying, so the average fat slob who's 70 years old trying to groom a 16-year-old girl from his library, who's just a lonely fat paedophile git who's got nothing better to do but to work towards his sexual urges. Those type of sexual offences may be coupled in with grooming gang sexual offences to muddy the waters. That's how I feel. And that's how I perceive what's being done.
How would that muddy the waters?
But it muddies the water because, like I said, because a grooming gang, the term gang, is a generic term in itself, because the grooming gang is a closed network.
Okay.
The members are closed. It's hence why it's a gang. It operates like a closed circle. So if it was an investment product, it would be a closed investment fund. Nobody comes in, but you can leave if you want to. Where a paedophile grooming network or a grooming ring operates fairly open. It may have one or two people that are in the forefront and sharing the information with the network, but pretty much people come in and out when they want, and they're all just pretty much linked up through the internet because they're all a bunch of sad fucks with abuse history themselves. So that's what I mean. It's like the way these grooming gangs operate, establish themselves, and the way if you read the reports of the victims, and even when some of the perpetrators have been honest themselves, they tell you that this information and the techniques were kind of passed down to them from community elders or from further, where the paedophile network members, the pedos as we like to call them, they're kind of making it up as they go along, or they've come across a friend who's into the same type of sick stuff. So the way they operate is very, very different.
Okay, so just let me clarify your particular position in terms of the research that you've done and the report that you've concluded. Are you stating that okay, is your position that this is a Pakistani problem or this is a Muslim problem?
Well, in Britain, in the UK, it's largely a Pakistani problem. Admittedly, obviously, there's other parts of Asian, Afghans, Bangladeshi, even Indians. You know, they are involved, Eastern Europeans, but they're the oddballs, right? So they're the odd few. So in Britain, and this is where I don't like, even in Speaker's Corner or in debates, this is where I don't like going, but I'm just sharing it because this is a closed conversation. So when you look at the Tunisian and Moroccan rape gangs in Spain, if you look at the Moroccan rape gang, they're called Lover Boys, as See Alive did a show recently in Holland, and you look at the Somali in Norway, that these type of rape gangs grooming gangs seems to be from members are from Muslim countries. Now, I know, I'm just going to say this so we got it out there. I'm aware that even in countries like India, Brazil, Mexico, there are these people who are, let alone raping children, they're raping, women and all these type of things. But those type of morons tend to stick with their own countrymen. And what also happens is that the local community comes out in their thousands and they're protesting and so on and so forth. We don't seem to be getting that from the Muslim community, including in the UK and in Europe. But anyway, we can come back to that. But in the UK, yes, it's largely a Pakistani problem. But when you go out into Europe and what's been happening in Germany and France and what have you, then, it seems to be a Muslim issue.
Okay. So moving on to, in terms of, from your research, there's 150, sorry, how much? 159?
Yeah, so from the 13 major reported grooming cases, there was 159 convictions.
Okay, 159 convictions.
Yes.
So, okay, 159 convictions. Okay, Manny, if I said to you, from the year 2003 to 2017, there was a total combination of sexual grooming offences, type 1, type 2, and online, a total of 6,250 offences. How would that sound to you?
No, I wouldn't batter an eyelid from it. I can imagine that type of mayhem taking place in the lives of the British community after what's been going on with everything else. So I kind of believe it.
Okay, so when we look at that kind of statistic, right? Okay, do you also agree that statistics can be skewed in or based on the question that's asked?
Yeah, of course. I mean, that's one of the best tricks that the media possess, right? So when they're reporting on things, then what they ask and how they derive the answer and how they report on it, then they could create a certain reaction.
Okay. Would you also undertake the fact that 159 convictions, although even one is horrendous, is a minuscule amount in respect to the 1.2 million Pakistani Muslims in the UK alone?
Yeah, I mean, that is not overall in a bigger scheme of things. That's not a lot of. That's not a big number. I agree with you.
Okay, so now based on that alone, right? Okay, so now for me, see, this is the my contention is okay. Also, Manu, in terms of the 6,000 figure that I've stated to you, these are figures that are from the ONS, yeah, official national statistics. Okay.
Yeah.
And I can share all of this information for you or hand it over to you. It's not a problem. It's readily available online, so you can research it yourself.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I've come across those figures and reports before. It's okay.
Okay. So the 6,000. Now, I mean, for me, when a person quotes such a figure of 90%, that's alarming to general public. Yeah. So obviously people are going to get the backs up in terms of thinking, well, sexual grooming or grooming gangs, 90% of Muslims or Pakistanis that are involved in there, it's a major issue. Now, for me, when I look at it, and I don't want to, shed any bad light on the victims or make it out like it's not a big issue. It obviously is. Even one is a big issue. But when I look at it on a statistic basis and take the emotions out of it, and I look at the figures, and I'm thinking to myself, is it really a big issue? Statistically, is it really a big issue? Because in this country alone, because what tends to happen is a lot of people tend to tag the word Muslim along with the grooming gangs. Now, from your research alone, you found, I mean, and I'm a Pakistani Muslim, so I have no bones in saying this. What you have found is predominantly it's a Pakistani issue. Yeah, there may be other elements involved, but predominantly it seems to be a Pakistani issue, especially in the high-profile cases. But the high-profile cases do not cover all cases. Yes, I think we need to be aware of that also. So when I break down the statistics alone, and if I were to ask the question in terms of how many Pakistanis are involved in grooming, if that was a question, then the figure would be 0.005%. Yeah, and we're still utilizing the same statistics, but the question is slightly different. This is my issue.
Yeah, and I understand where you're coming from, and it's a fair point, because what you're really saying is that let's not allow the perception of grooming cases to be used against Muslims, and I understand that, and this is why I'm always very careful as much as I can be to point out that this is not a reflection of any good Muslims, and when I hear stories of Muslims receiving hatred for whatever's been going on, I always say it's a genuine concern, right? It's a genuine concern. However, here's the extra elements that we need to consider. So I'm from a Sikh Punjabi family background.
Yeah.
So obviously I'm going to say some things now that I'm not going to be able to back up statistically, right? But you're going to have to take my word, or you can just ignore it. But I'm going to share it with you anyway. So obviously, from my friends, from my relatives, from their extensions, and there is more groomed Hindu and Sikh girls in the UK than people realise. So every time, I would say 90%, when you hear of an Indian, whether it's a Sikh or Hindu girl, goes to India to get married, the likelihood is that the parents did that to save her from the groomers. It's that extent. Every city I go to every people that I speak to this about. There's always new, oh, so and so, that's happened to them, but we did this, we did that. So the problem is much larger than that goes reported. Because I'm from that community, because I have links to the community, I know that's aware of that. But again, like I said, I can only tell you what I'm seeing. But it's for you guys, it's, well, he's talking, he's got nothing to prove that, then that's fine, right? So
no, Manny, do you know what? I on the Hindu aspect, I would think that's a little bit dubious for me. On the Sikh aspect of things, yeah, because there's a lot of similarities. I mean, I'm from a Punjabi background myself. I'm a Jat myself, yeah, obviously I'm from the Pakistani side. So there's a lot of similarities that we have in terms of language, food, culture, dress sense, etc. So I can see relationships or grooming, if you want to refer to it, taking place. I can understand that because the barrier to entry is not as difficult. The communication lines are easier, etc., etc. Now, I would also say this, Manny. I know what you're saying in terms of family members are saying to you that these type of grooming issues are taking place. I would put it out there also that it could be another reason why girls are getting sent back home is maybe quite, possibly that the parents are not happy with maybe their daughter or their son having relations with a non-Sikh or etc. And therefore, they've taken the children over to get married because, maybe the preference is for them to stay within their own communities. That is also a possibility. I'm not saying that grooming is not taking place. It obviously is. In some aspects it is. But this grooming is quite broadly used.
Let me finish. I've got two more points to make before you come in, Mel. So the other point I was going to make, that when you do read the reports, and sometimes you have to wait a year or two, even more years, to get the truth out, where one of the victims is re-interviewed after a grooming case, and they've said, and I've read it on at least 3 different reports, that the leading perpetrators of the gang were never arrested and put inside, and they were walking free. And up to this, and until this day, they were never even taken to a police station.
Where are these reports? What are these?
I can get you them. I'm going to have to dig them out, because once I put them away, then I can dig them out. That's not a problem, right?
Okay.
So my point is, if that is an indication, right, that perpetrators are not being arrested, then maybe that is a grey area. And the reason why I bring up that grey area is because we know the establishment are very pro-paedophilic. We know the establishment are themselves involved in child rape, and everyone from the members of parliament to social workers, they work towards and have helped. I mean, you can read most cases in these grooming cases that the social services and the police actually did a lot of things that helped the groomers or the paedophiles in that case. So, or I'm saying that there's a lot more on both sides of the story, that it makes you think that were some of the perpetrators even given opportunities and given information to entice them into what they did, not that there's an excuse. So that was my second point. But going back to your figure of 6,250, but like I said, that is a pot of statistic which includes paedophiles and members of paedophile rings and various other aspects, whereas my concentration of attention is for grooming gangs, and that's why I do come across and I do say the things that I do, because I can possibly relate to this more. And to be honest, I don't feel as motivated to highlight the other grooming cases, such as the paedophile rings, because as you can probably tell from the internet, there's a large cluster of very good British men and women actually doing the hard work, trying to trap paedophiles and catching them before they get to rape of children. And in those circles, there's Indians, there's British, there's Muslims, there's all types of different people. So that is a broad genre of paedophiles. But the grooming gang is a very special network.
Yeah, I think you'll find, Manny, these kind of how they describe as vigilante groups online who were kind of cornering these paedophiles. I think what you'll find is that offence code actually comes under online grooming. Yeah, I don't think it comes under paedophilia per se. Right. So when I say to you, when I give you this particular figure of 6,250, please bear in mind that this includes type 1, type 2, and online. Now, if you're saying, and I know categorically, obviously, the majority Pakistanis or the Muslims that are involved, obviously, are not all of that 6,250. I understand that, but just for argument's sake, if we were to even ascertain that there are 100% of that figure were Pakistani Muslims, it would still only equate to 0.005% of the Pakistani community, and that's going over a period of 13 years. Now, this is my main, again, I'll repeat it, this is my main contention. When a person repeats the 90% claim, then that's a massive statement, yeah? And that's something that people are going to be shocked by, you know. But if you look at the same figures and ask a slightly different question, which is not biased in any shape or way, then when you come out at a percentage that is below 1%, then the question reasonably arises: how big of a problem really is it?
Yeah, but again, this is the issue. So when we look at every single type of grooming case, then yeah, you can come to that. But like I said, I'm concentrating on the grooming gang cases.
But Manny, it would be even less. Do you not understand that? The percentage would be even less.
No, but it's not less because we've counted the names against the grooming
Manny,
cases.
with all due respect, you've got 150 names. I'm saying to you, even if we looked at the whole 6,000, which is obviously considerably more than the 150 names that you have, even if we took all of them into account, which we know they're not all Muslim, we know that's type 1, type 2, and online, it would still come to 0.005%.
Yeah, but I'm not disputing that. I'm saying, but that includes the different types of grooming.
Exactly. So if we were to eliminate that type of grooming out of there, it would come even lower. It would be like 0.0000005%.
Yeah, but I don't agree by putting all those in one bucket, Mo. Like I said, I regard the grooming gang, i.e., what I refer to as the 90% being Muslim, or what we're discussing as mostly Pakistani. I regard that as its own entity. I don't like muddying the waters with the other types of grooming, and I can appreciate that the process of grooming is involved in all those different types, but the way the grooming gangs operate, it is a combination of grooming, sometimes paedophilia, obviously rape and torture, but it also combines the prostitution, because at the end of it, they are prostituting those girls out. It's as simple as that. So there has to be a new genre, and that's why the term grooming gangs is used by me as much as it is.
Okay, so in respect to your research and the 159 conviction rate that you have got, would you say that was an in-depth analysis of the grooming issue in respect to as a whole, or do you think? I mean, what actual figure would you put on that in terms of, because have you got 100%? Have you got the 100% of the convictions, or would you say, right, okay, maybe it's 300, 400, 500? What would you put on that?
Yeah, so just to reiterate, so this report is made up of the 13 major grooming cases in the UK, and I read out the statistics, and I've combined it. It's 90.56 are Muslim origin. I don't get those mistaken by the other types of grooming. I don't even like the term grooming, if I'm very honest with you, because it makes it sound as if someone's getting chocolates and rocking horses. It's not enough for me. But I'm trying to use terminology that everyone's familiar with. So that's where my research is only from is from the grooming cases, i.e., what we're talking about, Muslim grooming cases. If you present information in regards to the other type of grooming cases, other type of grooming, sorry, then I'm going to have to take your word for it for this conversation, because I don't concentrate my research on that. All I know, that type of grooming, i.e. paedophilia and that type of sexual offences, has every single type of person in that. It's mostly white people, because this is a white country, and it's going to be more that type racial criminal in that respect. But I'm concentrating on the grooming gang and the grooming gang culture exclusively.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree. In terms of figures, the figures that should be quoted should be in proportion to the population, and that would be the fair way of doing things. In terms of, about a year or two ago, an organisation did a report into this particular issue, Quilliam. I'm sure you've heard of that. And, a lot of people with certain agendas were quick to jump on the bandwagon of this 84%. Where do you stand on that, Manny?
Look, I'm not for and against. I've heard of Aquilium. I've heard of plenty of negativity. I don't use their statistics. I don't think I've even read their report. I think I may have glanced over it once or twice. The thing is, if you're going to be a spokesperson on anything, and you're going to rely on statistics that are not your own, then eventually you're going to fall on the wayside. So that was one of the reasons why I didn't use their statistics. Everybody's heard of them, obviously, and they've come under scrutiny. Media organisations still quote them up to this day. So I don't really have an opinion about them, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I think the general consensus is it was a bit of a joke, based on the fact that they research the evidence that they utilize in order to come to their conclusions. Nothing was testable. It couldn't have been peer reviewed, so it didn't really hold up to scrutiny. But in saying that, the ramifications of them utilizing that particular figure, 84%, it had wide ramifications, because obviously it's a very sensitive issue, and this organization was able to put out a so-called report, and essentially accuse a large population of the minorities of being kind of culpable of committing these kind of criminal activities. Now, obviously, their report has been refuted, but the reason why I mentioned it is, in their particular report, what they said was that one of their primary sources of material was, I believe it's the OECP or the OCEP reports. Now, if you look at the reports, the OCEP reports for 2011 and 2013, which the data that Quilliam utilized in order to come to their conclusions, they categorically state that no inference should be made on race, religion, nationality in respect to any sexual grooming offences, because the data is incomplete and corrupted. Yeah. So essentially what they're saying is no figure can be accurate because the data is corrupt. What do you think about that, Manny?
Yeah, but again, like we've already discussed, they're putting all the sexual offences into one bucket, and like I say, that I do find these things as muddying the water, especially where I'm coming from, because I'm trying to highlight the fact that the grooming gang methodology and the crime is exclusive to the others. So I don't feel that this type of putting everything in one bucket is helping anyone. It's just causing more aggravation towards the Muslims, because they're not owning up to it, and there's more aggravation from the non-Muslims because everything's being muddied. So I don't think it helped. I think it. I like. I don't know if you know Big Ards. I like his way of approaching it. Just say like there is obviously a problem. We can see from the names of who are being convicted that it is a problem in that. Whether it's big enough for the problem is big enough for someone like you to say there's a genuine problem or not. Big Ards is saying, well, here I am. I'm going to build an organisation, which he started doing, and he's going to start. Tackling it and approaching and doing something, because I mean there's no way, whether there's one conviction or 159 convictions, or there should have been more. Like I say, there's if you're from a Pakistani family and I'm from a British Punjabi family, then we know a lot more than what goes on, than what the statistics say. Even
I agree.
We both know that these community members are I mean white people like James don't even know, some of these members, they're a bit crazy. So fair, I mean, this is what I always say as well, or try to always say, and I don't say it successfully. Is like I understand the concern of good Muslims of being tarnished by these predators. I kind of get it, but at the same time I cannot hold up the feelings of good Muslims in order to save their feelings and not highlight as much as possible the perpetrators, and it's just a unfortunate thing that even though a lot of what I think some of the things that Tommy Robinson can do can be very unproductive, but in terms of highlighting these crimes, he's been very, very successful. And now that people like Big Ards are coming on board, and plenty of other good Muslims, and I think you should get involved in these things as well, because you seem like a good spokesperson. These type of things that will be pushed out of the community, and it's probably more to do with what's been passed on from the old country in regards to Pakistan, and Pakistanis that are not very wealthy are working a certain type of job that they're kind of encouraged to do these type of things. But whatever the issue is, it has to be tackled, and whether we tackle the grooming gang issue first, or whether we tackle the main average paedophile, which like we've already clarified is from every background. It all has to be done.
Yeah, no, I agree. And
like if I was Pakistani or if I was Muslim, I'd be feeling exactly like you. Do you understand? Every time I read a Sikh or Indian name on these days, I'm effing and blinding for hours. Do you know what I mean? It's like I kind of, and of course it's embarrassing. It's the worst thing you can do if you're not motivated to help women and children, which are men are genetically programmed to do. We're protectors, we're defenders. So obviously, but on the same hand, you Muslim gents are also encouraged to not to speak badly about your own community members, and don't bring highlight to it. I get all the different ingredients that makes it even more complicated. But at the end of the day, someone like me, someone like James, we can't do this. It has to be Muslims. From my experience, only listen to other Muslims. And when by the time you speak to extremist Muslims, you realize they don't even criticize another Muslim. So it just virtually becomes impossible. And that's why people like yourself and Big Ards, and it has to be somebody that's not going to be functional in emotions and not to get carried away, because you're going to be attacked from your own community as well. You have to remember that it's not a case of here comes superstar Mobile, he's going to take care of our community. Those senior people are going to attack you for admitting there is a problem. So you need to come forward, and the more organizations and individuals there are from the Pakistani Muslim community saying, yeah, we need to sort this out, the more of that message is going to trickle down to different layers of the Pakistani community. That's my view, but I'm not Pakistani, so I can't speak for you.
I mean, obviously, I can only speak for myself. I don't speak for any organization or anybody else. I'm only responsible for myself. But I think I agree with a lot with what you're saying. But I think in terms of when you say the Pakistani community needs to come out, I feel genuinely, I feel like the vast majority of us feel like we're under attack now. And in that respect, you know, what are we to do?
And that's an issue that people like me are contributing into creating, and I accept that.
Yeah.
And I accept
what
that.
are we to do? If you were to ask me, do you condemn it? Of course I condemn it. I condemn it in the harshest way. If you know, if I was privy to such information, would I tell the police? Of course I would. But you know, this sort of sentiment does not get out there. You know, people do not relay this information. Also, Manny, and you know, I don't mean to attack you as such, but you know, when do you not agree that when you there's a vast distinction in terms of when you utilize the same figures, in terms of when you say 90% is vastly different than if you were to say the actual figure, which is 159. Do you not think the kind of the message that would be sent out by using the same figure, the 159, rather than the 90%, it sends out a vastly different message?
Well, look, it's a fair point. It's a fair point. I'm still, when I'm saying just 90%, I'm not to relaying the 159 figure. I'm not saying the truth. I'm sorry, I'm still not lying. It's still the truth.
No, I know.
This
is obviously from your research.
Like I said, I haven't got an argument against it because, like I said, I'm fairly compassionate guy. So, like I said, I've already been through this thought process that you're telling me that you guys feel under attack. And again, if the shoe was on the foot, I would feel under attack. And like I said, I want to take responsibility for that. So when I hang up, you know, on the next few days, or by the time I speak next time, whether it's publicly or not, I'm going to comprehend what we're talking about here, because you know, there is a certain level of responsibility that should be taken seriously. And if you're coming to me and saying, you know, this needs to be done, then you know, I'm not going to make any promises, but I can say to you that I will comprehend everything that you say. And if indeed I need to say the actual figure to get that message across, then I'll certainly try to do so. But I will, and I have already, even when BDM was making the videos and what have you, have already started stating at the end of the videos, saying that this is not a reflection of the good Muslims and blah blah blah. So I had already started bringing this in. But if you feel that there has to be done more, then
no,
yeah.
I mean, it was just an observation, Manny. You know,
no, I understand. I'm just one more thing, and to neutralize that gap. You know, like Big Ards has closed a massive gap between the Muslim community, Pakistani community, and those of us that stand against the grooming, just by coming out and participating. So what we need is individuals, like I keep saying, individuals like you to close that gap. Because look at it this way: the more of the racist types, aggressive types see Muslims being bothered about it and standing up against it, and actually doing something, not just like a PR stunt, but actually doing something, what's that going to do? That's going to take away any aggressive nature they have against any Muslim, because now we're going to be acting like a community. If, however, good Muslims such as yourself go, oh, you know, I'm in the attack, I'm not going to get involved, you know, these people are X, they have an agenda, then this is going to keep snowballing. So to a certain regard, you have to kind of sidestep a lot of things and come forward.
No, I totally agree. I totally agree. In terms of, I mean, on a side point, I've seen the kind of positive aspect that Ards seem to be having on Raj. Yeah. And to be honest with you, I wasn't really a fan of Raj, if I'm perfectly honest. But in the last couple of weeks, I've seen a gradual change in him. And, you know, I'm kind of warming to him. And I think as adults and reasonable people, we all know how to conduct a conversation in order for it not to go down a negative path. So, you know, we should be careful of the words that we utilize. And if we're able to discuss in a manner that is not going to antagonize someone else, I think that is far more fruitful, and we will get down. I mean, look, you look at the hate that Raj gets, it's unbelievable. Yeah. And he's a bit of a stubborn mule, because I think he loves it. You know, so, but like I said, I can see aspects of him changing as well. And I think if all parties are able to sit down and just converse, you know, in a nice manner, we will be able to resolve this issue, because whatever certain people who have agendas may want the vast public to believe, the Muslim community or the Pakistani community do not condone these actions whatsoever. They do not. I mean, I'm 41 years old, and I can honestly say with my hand on my heart, I have never, ever come across anything like this, But I'm from Manchester. And what seems to be happening is, I mean, Rochdale isn't a million miles away. It's 10 miles away from me, where I live, 10, 15 miles away. But Rochdale is a very small town, and it's heavily populated by Kashmiri Pakistanis. Yeah, and it's a slightly different mindset. And another thing is also in terms of Pakistan is quite a large country with different. It's quite diverse as well. And I'm pretty sure if you were to look at the convictions of these particular individuals, then it will become apparent that the vast majority of the Pakistanis come from one certain demographic, one certain area geographically. And
I have heard that there's a area in Pakistan called Miri Piri or something.
Mirpur. Yeah. That's in Kashmir.
I'm a coconut, mate, so my pronunciation is going to so I can only apologise. So apparently that's the cluster. If I remember, I did look at the Pakistan map when that was relayed to me, and I think it's quite close to the Kashmir border. Am I right?
It's in what they refer to as Azad Kashmir. So on the Pakistani side of Kashmir, it's in Kashmir. From what I've seen and what you will find is that particular community, they were the first to emigrate over from Pakistan, and they came and when they settled in the UK, because they're from hilly communities, like mountainous communities, they kind of a lot of them congregated on either side of the Pennines. Yeah, so you have Sheffield, Oldham, Rochdale, Blackburn, etc.,
sure.
Because it's like Bradford. And a lot of the Meadwood community are in that particular area, and there does seem to be obviously it does seem to be an issue in respect to that. Now, why that's happening, why it's happening is the big question for me. In our religious beliefs and in our culture, we tend to segregate ourselves from females, and I think that could be a contributing factor where these men are not socially inept in terms of how to treat women, how to speak to them, etc. Also, another factor is that we're not allowed to court. Yeah, we're not allowed to date. So whenever like for example, in my younger days, I would have to hide and do whatever I needed to do, because I didn't want that wind to get back to my family. So,
Sure.
You get into this kind of character mode where you're not necessarily telling the female who you are, what you do, whatever, because everything's a secret. And I think a lot of these men are just taking that to a whole new level and are being absolutely disgusting, really.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't integrate, then there's going to be all types of issues, generally speaking, because you're seeing the whole country or your whole thing, and then you feel as if you're being held back, which is, I suppose the westernization process of it all. So, James, you've been very quiet. Did you want to come in and give us your synopsis on what we've discussed?
I can give it a go.
Go on, James.
You guys have been fine. I've been appreciative of your keeping your calm and everything. That's been very good. I was worried that it was going to get heated, but it was very good. Look, it's pretty clear that the authorities are failing to do anything about this problem, many other problems, to be frank. If we look in anything, if we lift any rock, we'll find that the authorities are largely negligent or incompetent, and this is no different. So, highlighting the problem, I mean, Andrew Norfolk brought this all about in the Times. That's all ancient history. And he found that there was gross negligence on the part of the authorities, and the authorities have, of course, admitted that they were complicit in all of this. I wouldn't go as far as to say that they wanted it, but they certainly, to a degree, facilitated it. at various
What do you mean
levels.
by complicit, James? What do you
Well,
mean?
we've got the counsellors that do nothing, that were given information that did nothing. We've got social workers that were negligently allowing teenage girls out of the house, hanging out with groups of men. This has been reported that they shouldn't have been. I mean, we're talking about young girls. Sometimes they were in houses with just themselves, and social workers, and the social workers were, turning a blind eye to this. We've got police officers who crimes were reported to who didn't do anything about those crimes. So everybody has come out and said, yeah, everyone was complicit in this, or turning a blind eye, whatever you want to call it. So that's why people have run news articles. People like Manny have tried to bring this to the fore. The sad thing about it is that when this happens, you ultimately demonize people, a large group of people who are not responsible, the largest group, and also you encourage vigilantism, which is, the thing that I would like to see neither of those things to happen. But that's a consequence of where we are. So the problem we face is that we want to raise this as an issue, or people want to raise these things as issues, and this goes in any aspect of crime, because we want the authorities to take note and to take action. But in doing so, we cause problems within the communities, and we cause people to feel demonized and unfairly scrutinized. In terms of the statistics, it seems to me that if you take any peculiar grouping within a crime, and you go down to a certain level of criminality, you will probably have skewed statistics. If you said, for example, let's just look at people that are unmarried, or let's just look at people that are, XYZ, whatever it might be, within a group, to create a subgroup, you're going to find some kind of disproportionality that points to, and in this case, it points to Pakistanis, because it's the nature of it. And what Manny's saying is he's looking at certain kind of subset, the very nature of the way these people operate, and finding that there's a disproportionality, and that it points to Pakistanis. But I think you could do that in any regard with any crime. You could look at it and say, the perpetrators, when we go to this level, are all black, or they're all white, or they're all, this, that, and the other. So I think we can skew the stats somewhat. But I just, from my point of view, it seems to me that the most important thing is that we get the authorities to do their job, and what we don't want is vigilantism, and demonization of the groups involved.
I mean, me personally, I can see how the police could have been kind of thinking that they have to tread on eggshells in respect to this, because they were being overly sensitive, and that's not acceptable. If a crime has been committed, regardless of what particular community it is, then the perpetrators should feel the full force of the law.
I mean, the thing is, Billy, this is what they do with everything. The authorities, they just are incompetent and negligent about everything, and they think it's the best thing to do, and ultimately it's the worst thing to do. If they'd have just stamped on this from the go-get, this would not have reached this position right now. And even though we're talking about tiny numbers of people here, they've allowed this to happen, and it's made it much, much, much worse. And it's now involved literally millions of people are getting like tarred with this brush because of their incompetence, and it's disgusting. I mean, two things that they've done. One is that they, like you say, have probably trod lightly. Manny's obviously making sort of greater allegations about them being involved, and I can't really speak to that. But the other thing they've done is probably also ignore these vulnerable people, in the sense that they said, well, they're a certain type of person and therefore we don't care about them. And this isn't to do with this. They do this with everything. They do this with drug abuse, where they'll just say, oh, they're a certain type of person, so we'll just let them kill themselves effectively. And that's what they've done. They've allowed these vulnerable people to just fall by the wayside because they just don't care about them. That's the truth, right?
I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there with the word vulnerable. I think a lot of the females, the young girls that were the victims of these heinous acts, from what I gather, the information that I gather, were in kind of social care, or left to their own devices, because I mean, rationally thinking, you would assume if if my daughter, for example, was out and about at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, number one, why should she be out at that time? Number two, why is she coming home drunk? Who's she with? What's she doing? There needs to be a number of questions that need to be like there has to be a check balance there. What's going on? Obviously, there was nobody there.
I agree. It's a mess from start to finish. I mean, everything is messy in this whole situation, and everybody's going to get, it's going to upset people like Manny who don't want this thing. He's seen this stuff in his community. It's going to upset him to act. So he now acts, which ultimately is against certain groups. And, like he says, he's trying to be sensitive, but he wants something done. So it results in him doing that. It results in people like you that are honest and are not criminals to being tarred in some way and demonized in some way. And yet I still hold to the view that I can bet you now that the authorities are doing the absolute bare minimum to make sure this doesn't happen elsewhere. Literally. No one's been prosecuted, and that it sickens me.
And can I just come in? There was a documentary made in the 80s about Shera Punjab, which was the group set up by the Sikh communities to combat Muslim grooming gangs taking away.
Yeah, I've seen
Punjabi
some of that, Manny.
girls.
Yeah.
And there was a documentary made, and in the documentary, the police officer is shown, and he's one of the senior chaps. Says, "There's no problem. There's nothing at all. We haven't come across anything."
There you go. This is like J. Edgar Hoover saying that there was no such thing as organised crime when the mafia were running rampant.
Right. So what do you get? So overlap that to today's cases. Right until now, people say the parents are going saying our daughter's coming back drunk. She's coming back with these gifts. This is happening. Can you help us? There's no problem. She this is England. She's free to go with whoever you want. We've had reports where police have raided a house, and while a girl has been raped, they turned around and said, she's pleasuring me. Get out. Or I'm going to do whatever. And the police have arrested us. They said we did not want to be called racist. So there is definitely, James, what you're saying, issues. And obviously we've had cases of social services actually being in touch with the head groomers and giving them information. You've got to remember that the law states that when a child is under care, they're allowed to leave for 3 days.
Yeah, it's
right.
disgusting.
So every evening they can leave and come back God knows what hour. So what does that do? That gives perfect access to the grooming gang, to that vulnerable person who's been ripped from their family and is now going to be exploited even more. But just two things that I want to finish off now in regards to the Muslim community. Mo, you have to remember that extremist Muslims that don't want to sit down and have a conversation like you are part of the problem of the hatred that Muslims get, because non-Muslims tend to feel that there's no synergy, and if there's no synergy, then there's no middle ground. So your community also has to work towards that. To kind of filling in the gap and meeting everybody midway, because if you don't do that, then obviously that creates a barrier. But just one more thing, I did touch on it earlier on. We have to remember when we look at European, in Norway there's Somalian groom gangs, and in Holland and Spain they're Moroccan. Belgium police don't even bother investigating any cases of grooming and paedophilia. They're that laid back, and obviously there's Middle Eastern gangs in Germany. So these are all. I'm not saying that only rape and paedophilia is committed by Muslims. I'm just saying that there needs to be some kind of consensus coming forward and looking at this, because when one of these crimes are sorted out by we the people, then everybody, including the police, including different communities, will have to come forward and say, yes, there is a problem here and we sorted it out. Otherwise, if everybody keeps saying, well, it's not me, it's not my family, it's not affecting my children, which happens a lot, then this is just going to keep going on and on and on. And like I said, this started for the Punjabi communities in the 70s, and we're in 2018 and it's still going on.
Yeah, I mean, Manny, if you were to say to me that, like I said earlier, that your statistics and the research that you've done, you would assume that the majority of them are what, Pakistani, would you say?
Yeah, majority are Pakistani.
Okay, so the majority are Pakistani. If you were to say that, right, in respect to your research, I'd have no problems with that. Yeah, I would only have an issue if you were to then attach the Muslim label to it. Yeah, and the reason for that is quite simple. I mean, like I said, we've all seen the silly videos with Ali Dawar and Jada Franson where he's saying, "Oh, I can't shake your hands," etc., etc. Muslims are not allowed to smoke, drink, fornicate, etc. So if these individuals may be Muslim, obviously they come from that particular background, but are they actually adhering to the core religious beliefs? Absolutely not. So to then attach that particular label to them as an identity, I think it's a false equation. Yeah, and I don't think it's fair to be doing that in the first instance, because their actions contradict what their beliefs should be. What would you say about that?
Yeah, the thing is, I never go deep into religious and I took out 6 years of my life researching all religions, and I realised it's kind of a pit. So I never go into try to clarify these things, and so I just take it on face value. I certainly don't criticise the religion like a lot of people do at Speaker's Corner, because especially with the Muslim community, it's too personal for them, and they're kind of programmed to see religion sometimes more important than their own family, and that's, to me, is really bananas. But I respect it. If that's what they want to put their importance on, then so be it. I never try to clarify whether Abu Talha and his Dawa friend Saeed, or whether Mohammed Hijab and the chap that you mentioned are good or bad Muslims. It's not my place. Only Muslims.
No, I understand that, man. That's not. I mean, what I'm saying to you is this. For example, we've identified that it's a majority Pakistani issue. If it were a Muslim issue, then why do we not see more Somalians, more African Muslims, more Afghans, more Arabs, more of these particular communities as well? If it was a Muslim issue per se, in
Europe,
UK,
in Europe, it could be derived as that.
Okay, but then again, you're looking at a nationality, and what you're saying to me in Europe is a particular nationality that's doing it. If it was a general consensus, if we were to put it all under one umbrella and say it's a Muslim issue, then surely the statistics that you have collated would prove that, there's a broader spectrum of Muslims that are committing this particular act in this country. Now, there's between 4 to 5 million Muslims in this country. And 1.2 million of us are Pakistani, which is a large proportion of that. Nevertheless, there are elements of every single Muslim community within the UK. If it was, I would say, if it was a Muslim issue, you would see a larger proportion of other nationalities committing these heinous acts.
So what about, here's a question for you, Mo. So what about that rape game? It's called Talash or something, where it's from the Middle East, and if a woman is not wearing burqa or hijab and what have you, and she's not with a man, then she can be taken away and gang raped. Are you aware of that Middle Eastern game?
It's the first time I'm hearing that, Manny. But again, I'm not versed in. But I've never heard of that. I can honestly say I've never heard of that. Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. It would. Look, listen. I'm not saying in the Muslim community there's not a lot of perversion. There is. I have seen it with my own eyes when I've been to Dubai. I've seen it with my own eyes. Everything happens. I'm not oblivious to the facts and say, we are holier than thou. No, absolutely not. Me being somebody who's born and raised in this country, I obviously am privy to everything that goes on in Western society. My culture and religion does not allow me to do certain things. Yet I do it. So whether that makes me a good Muslim or a bad Muslim, I am a Muslim. But again, it should be within the confines of the law, and it should never, ever, ever be any kind of sexual offense. That is just the worst of the worst,
Yeah.
But we are humans, and we're all programmed differently, regardless of what our backgrounds are and what our kind of ideology is and our culture is. We will always get the black sheep, the bad apples. They will always be that scenario, and I think that's the case in every community. Nobody can put their hands up and say, right, we are not privy to this sort of this craziness. I think it happens in all communities. Yes, you are right. We, as a community, if we're able to kind of ascertain that these sort of activities are happening, we need to put a stop to it. We need to inform the relevant authorities. We need to be showing that, you know what, we are actively against these things. Yeah. Sometimes, like I said, because a community feels like they're being attacked, they can sometimes be on the defensive and just allow the authorities to take control. And that, in some instances, that may be the right way of doing it. But then again, people can kind of point the finger and say, "Well, what are you doing? You know, you're not speaking up."
Agreed, and also we have to remember that there is some kind of consensus where the establishment may not be necessarily doing things to prevent the different groups from having this type of moral clash, and they may not be helping with what they're doing with the whole situation. So we have to be aware of that. That the establishment needs to needs to change their stance, but they're not going to change their stance voluntarily. They have to do, like James says, that they are probably, if anybody is to be blamed on a core level, it has to be the establishment, what I call the master paedophiles, right? Because they're the ones that are allowing the criminals to be walking around. Like, for example, if you were to do a bit of tax evasion, you're being banged up and you're not getting out on bail. Where a lot of these paedophile grooming gang members, they get arrested, they get charged, and they're out on bail for 2-3 months until they're back in court. I'm not even talking about the lenient sentences. I'm saying that they're carrying on with their lives and they're still able to have access to children and still carry on to do X, Y, and Z. So in terms of facilitation, of course, the establishment are the master paedophiles and groomers, but nonetheless, we, the people, the average Joe, we can start working on the ground level by coming forward. And the difference between somebody such as yourself, who's an average person in Manchester, and being prominent is not a great deal. I mean, James will be able to vouch for this. I mean, turning yourself into a spokesperson nowadays because of the internet, it's not a big deal. You just have to be persistent for a few weeks and get a few videos out, get into a few debates, and before you know it, then you've got your voice out there. But you have to have a strict agenda. You have to have almost like a written down constitution saying this is what my objective is, and share that objective. And in your case would be to prove that the good percentage of the Muslim community, which is more the majority, are not part, and they don't condone these grooming gangs.
I mean, Manny, we're at the end of the day, every single person that isn't a groomer, and that's 99.9% recurring of people, all they want is for this to stop. So we're all on the same page. Ultimately, we're on the same page. The only issue is, how do we get the authorities to do our bidding? That's what we want. We want them to do this, and we also want everyone to be actively vocal in making them do this. If we were all behind that same thing, and I think we all are ultimately, it's just that we all become apathetic and despondent because we don't think they're ever going to do it. I mean, Manny's obviously more of the view that they are part of it than I am. I think it's about negligence and incompetence for the most part. But if we could all be behind this idea that it's them, they need to do this, because at the end of the day, not only are they allowing these people off the hook, but they're also allowing a large group of the population to be demonized unfairly, because there's no other outlet for people like Manny and Raj. They've got to just expose it the best way they can, and that ultimately leads to dissent, to division. And it'd be better if we could just get the authorities to do their flipping job, which of course they never do unless they're absolutely forced to, and we can see that in all other walks of life.
And one of my core objectives is to get people like you out and vocalizing it for your own community.
Yeah, Manny, sorry, I mean, I to be honest with you, I have no issues in the way you have presented your argument, and the claims that you're making. Obviously, I disagree with what you're saying in terms of the figures itself, but I am still able to converse with you in a respectful manner, because the way you've put the information out, and just the way we are conversing. The problem lies is when you have individuals, for example, Tommy Robinson and his crew, and the way they spin the story or the agenda, it's not fruitful. It's not good. All it's going to do is going to create more division and hate, and that's something that we need to eliminate.
Can I suggest? I think that you raise a really good point there, Billy. Can I suggest that we table this now and say that that we come back to it and have Billy on to talk about this publicly, because he's got a great voice. He's well spoken. He understands the subject well, and he speaks for a community as well in a certain sense. So why don't we have Billy talk about this publicly? Because everything you've said on this today is excellent. Actually, the way you're talking together is more the point that interests me. That you're actually conversing in a rational way, in a reasonable way, and that you can see each other's sides, and that to me is a terrific message.
Yeah, I mean, from what I can see I've only been on this online thing the past few months, and from what I can gather, Speaker's Corner is not maybe the ideal place to be having such conversations.
No, it's full of narcissism, as Manny would say, and egotists, and it's not pleasant.
And also, I don't really go onto the panels. I mean, I'm a moderator on a couple of the live chats, but as Manny will testify, I get a bit of a hard time. I mean, even a couple of Manny's moderators were sick the other night.
Billy, I'm suggesting that you go on to shows with the likes of me and Manny only, and you don't let the more divisive characters on there. And we have rational. This to me is perfect. Like what you guys have done today is perfect, and it's a huge step in the right direction.
Yeah, sounds great. Sounds great. And it's been thank you for allowing me to have this conversation. I think we've touched quite a lot of bases and been able to kind of understand where each and everybody's kind of position is. And again, we can agree to disagree. But I think it's a positive thing that we are able to converse and kind of listen to one another.
Sure. And like I said, I do understand where you're completely. Sorry, got a frog in my throat. Completely, Mo. So thanks for sharing, and also thanks, James, for moderating. Very good.
There wasn't anything to do, was there? It was very easy. I like this kind. I like this kind of moderation. These rational people. Where are they? We need more of them.
Well, it's like you said. I think you may have assumed that I'm going to come on here and kind of rant and rave, but that's not. It's never productive, you know. It would be a waste of time for everybody if I came on and behaved in that particular manner.
Sure.
Brilliant,
Cool.
guys. So shall we? Billy, we'll be in touch if that's okay.
Yeah,
and
no
maybe
worries.
we'll sort something out where we can all talk again, and maybe next time make it public and get more people involved, because the more people from the various communities that interact with each other positively, the better.
Yeah,
sure.
Sounds good. Thank you, gents. Thank you.
All
Have
right,
a great
gents.
day.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon. Thanks, James. Thanks, Mo.
Thanks, guys. Bye-bye.